We start with the paradox that there have been countless ingenious technological innovations for the last 200 years, and the last 50 years especially, that are designed to save us time. Remarkable inventions. Somehow the result has been that nobody has any time left. Why? What is that all about? The mystery of time is very much deeper than, in a way, what is this thing that we have beginning, middle, end? We come into being, we pass out of being. Everything, more or less, has that property of being temporal in time, except, so they say, the eternal, whatever that is, which we can talk about. So the mystery of time is the mystery of our life, our human life. The satisfactions of desires is, for many of us, the meaning of happiness. So one of the things we have to understand about the problem of time is the proliferation of desires. It's not that there were people twirling their mustaches behind the scenes saying, how can we make life more and more meaningless while we're making it seem more and more meaningful? But that's more or less what happened. This is an industry that's feeding off, provoking more and more desires. And that eats up a lot of our time, getting things, doing things, trying to get more and more, trying to work more and more, et cetera, et cetera. There's a symbol of that in the Tibetan tradition. It's called a hungry ghost. Hungry ghosts are like phantoms with a big belly, and their limbs and their head are floating, sort of hardly connected, but they all around, and they have a big belly and a little pinprick mouth. And they're always hungry, they're always eating. And the more they eat, the hungrier they get. And each time they eat, when it goes down, it burns fiercely. Now, another aspect of how we look at human beings in this general culture of thing, it is not recognized very much in our society, in our world, that human beings have an inner world and an outer world. We have a side of ourselves that needs to act, manifest, to take care of our family, to earn our living, to accomplish things, to invent, to travel, to live, to take care of the earth, to do all sorts of things which human beings can really do remarkably. But there's this inner part, and it's not just the psychological desires and things, but there's an inner life within us which we have lost touch with entirely. There's a real self inside there, a real I, that's covered over. It hasn't been born. It's not able to appear. And that's our real identity, is connected to that. The thing we call ourselves has been culturally conditioned. It's not that it's bad altogether. It's just a cultural fact, a cultural product of an interaction of outside influences in my own mind and emotional nature and body. That cultural psychological product, you can call it ego if you like, but that has so many loaded meanings nowadays. But it's the surface self, if you like, that we need. We damn well need it in our life. It's important. But there's this other self that we're born to come in touch with, to open to, that really gives life meaning. Without that, we just are like little puppets. We're born, we're conditioned, we get our money, we get our food, we make our babies, and we die. That's it. So time is connected with emphasizing the outer self, the problem of time, to the exclusion of the inner self. Because when that inner self appears, even for a moment, it's a completely new sense of time. I am here. If you were under hypnosis, somebody put you under a hypnotic trance and told you you were, I don't know, one of the Three Musketeers or something, or Barry Bonds, or and you started acting, talking, or reminiscing about your time when you hit 74 home runs or something, or when you were fighting with George Washington at Valley Forge, whatever you were hypnotized into thinking, feeling. And then you stepped out of it. Here I am. This is who I am, of course. I don't know how it happened that I was just thinking. I felt I was like General Lafayette next to George Washington, or I thought I was Joe DiMaggio, or whatever, Marilyn Monroe. And now I see I'm just me. I'm me. And you wake up from a dream, and then, I'm here. So we could say at that moment in the dream and in the hypnosis, you had forgotten who you were. Now, when you get swallowed, shall we say, by all the cravings, all the things that you want to do, that you have to do, you absolutely have to get this done. Every time maybe you get hurt, your feelings get hurt, or maybe you get angry, maybe you get sentimental, maybe and all those feel like you at the moment. And maybe something like what we were talking about, maybe your mother walks in with cookies when you're a child or something. You've been playing with your toys, and suddenly, for some reason, you feel, I'm here. I remember myself when this is a bit later on, but when I was about, I don't know what I was, about 12 or maybe 9, walking down the street just as a kid, skipping along, and I was walking down. I remember the beautiful autumn leaves, and suddenly I realized, I'm here. I'm me. I'm Jerry. I am here. And I looked around, so isn't that interesting? I exist. Then the question appears, well, then who really are we? And the term sometimes uses remembering oneself. But what are we? What are we meant to be? What is a human being on earth supposed to do, supposed to be? Is he supposed to be what we said, eat, drink, breakfast, lunch, dinner, children, and that's it? Then you die? Or is there something else? Because a human being is so extraordinarily created. To open that question, that's what philosophy does. And when a question like that is really opened, time is a whole different meaning. Is something really in us that is timeless? What then is the human being supposed to be? So, in my view, and I think it's been taught for centuries, but put in very simple words, a human being is meant to serve a higher purpose. It's meant to serve, meant to give, meant to help, meant to be part of what is noble in the universe. I can put it in other language which may sound sentimental, but a human being is meant to be able to love, not as we usually love, which is just satisfying our desires, which are very good, but a human being is meant to care in a way that comes from another level, from the real I. I see that I don't have any time in my life usually. I'm rushing from one thing to another. But what I'm beginning to realize is my emotions that are taking my time away from me. For example, my fears, my neuroses, my imagination, my worries, my jealousies, my need to fix something up that isn't broken. Every day, practically, or every third day, one is taking care of things which are just the creation of emotional reactivity that really have no existence, really at all. So we live in this, the earth itself. This is what's so strange, is that the earth, nations destroy other nations because of hurt feelings, because of emotions. And so that kind of emotion is very destructive. And that destroys time. Little things too. I had an aim to do something down in my office. I see a magazine. I'm lost. Oh, that's interesting. It's not interesting. Why am I spending all that time looking at the damn magazine? It's entertaining. So entertainment is a thief of time also. I think it's interesting. I think it's important that I know that the penguins are in trouble or something like that. I read all about it suddenly. Do I give my attention to things which really aren't that important for me, nor is that interesting? And therefore, the waste of time is the waste of attention. My emotion takes my attention. Now, the attention is the most uniquely human characteristic we have. One of the Zen koans is, what is the face you had before your mother met your father? And so, what is your unconditioned self, your unconditioned I, nature, whatever, consciousness? Everything else is conditioned. Everything else in us is given to us. Our body is given. Our thoughts we get from our parents, our education, our media, our environment, our opinions. We are given in a way we don't really think actively about them very much usually. Our sexual life is sort of programmed into us. We have that, it's given. But there's one thing that is my own nature. And that's what this is. The original face is a symbol of that. That's my attention is my own thing. The only thing in a human being that is truly my own, that is not conditioned, is this quality called attention. What I give my attention to is truly voluntary. The only really good questions are the unanswerable ones. Theoretically, our sense of self is, our usual sense of self is basically a lie. It's deep down, it's something pretense. There's something that we're hiding. There's a wound of some kind in us that we're protecting, something like that. I think for many of us have a wound that was inflicted upon us emotionally when we were very young. And this image forms around it in order to protect it. And it's not me, but it protects me because this thing is there, hurts. And the protection takes all my energy, really. I'm constantly trying to make sure that it doesn't get exposed or hurt, this wound doesn't get touched. And if it does, then all the forces rush in to readjust to the ego, defends itself, reestablishes itself. And that's part of ordinary mental health. Otherwise, we walk around and we'd be basket cases walking around all the time. Because it's always some people are more touchy and sometimes less, but most of us are pretty damned sensitive. If you hear the first letter of your name said 10 feet away from you and suddenly you're there. This image person, this ego is so sensitive. So this image or ego or personality, which sometimes serves a very good purpose and mustn't be destroyed, is trying to do something in our lives. It's been given a job to do, or it's taken on a job to do that it is constitutionally unable to do. It's taken on the job of making us feel safe, making us strong, protecting us, trying to care for other people, to love another person. It's trying to make us really intelligent, to have knowledge and understanding. But the knowledge, understanding, and the love that is generated by the image or the personality or the ego is not fundamentally sound. It's not meant to be the master. And the body doesn't know any better. I mean, the body, the ego sometimes just pushes on the body and says, you must be like this, you must do that. Or it indulges the body. It says, here's a nice thing for you, and it gets lots of pleasure and things. The body itself understands somewhere that this is a false master. It's trying to do something in our life that can only be done by the real I. The true I, the true self, when it appears, everything obeys it, everything respects it. The body recognizes, here's the boss, here's the master. I will obey that person. I will obey that being. The personality is trying to do the work that the real I should do. But the real I is hidden. So the personality is always trying to do these things, and we spend our time trying to accomplish all that. And sometimes we succeed, we become famous, we become successful, we become the star. But behind it all, there's, for most people who are at all sensitive, behind it all there's a haunting despair. The question about time, the relation between our ordinary life, our ordinary time, and this timelessness, where we're free from the aggressive, the predatory kind of time, which we usually have. The relationship between those two, the ordinary mind cannot really understand it, cannot understand when this other time appears. And the only answer to the problem, that question about time that is asked by us ordinary, poor, ordinary mortals, is, the answer is not in words, it's in the experience of some timeless quality in ourselves. An answer is given not in words, but in experience. When you begin to have that kind of experience more and more, or even once sometimes, you know the answer. You know what this timelessness is. So you begin to, first of all, now to need what I call philosophical friends. People who have the same kind of interests, who have this kind of attraction to something beyond the world of appearances, beyond the world of breakfast, lunch, dinner, money, children. People who have that yearning that Plato called eros, which is almost a nameless impulse to connect to something greater. And when you have friends like that and you come together with them, sometimes it attracts people who can help you. Because the people who can help exist, I'm quite sure of that. And they're waiting to find the people that they can help. There's a very beautiful passage in the Buddhist scriptures called The Day in the Life of the Buddha. And he describes how he lives, goes through his day, and then it describes how he goes to bed and he goes to sleep. And it says something like he prepares himself for sleep, prepares himself to lie down in the special Buddhist lion's posture, I think it's called, of sleep, on his right side. But before he lies down to sleep, it said he casts his Buddha eye around the world to see who has the great wish, and he draws that person toward him. And so there are beings out there who are trying. If you have the wish, there are people there who are trying.